right, so I'm going to start by introducing Makeda, also known as Keisha McDonald, but I like to call her Makeda. So she's an attorney at law, right? Called to the bar in the UK, called to the bar in Jamaica. She's also an author. Her first book was Healing Fibroids Naturally. And she's also one of the owners, along with her husband, of Kushite's Vegetable Cuisine. And she's also the creator of this space, Happy Womb Club, where she shares her journey, her personal journey, about how she healed her fibroids naturally. And she gives lots of really, really great, helpful tips on how you can heal your fibroids, and not only fibroids. I mean, women who have so many other womb issues like PCOS, infertility, blocked tubes. So many women can find this information useful. So I'm always recommending her channel, not her channel, her page, for you to go and find good information that can help you with how you can heal naturally. So welcome her, everybody. Can we get some hearts, some stars? I'm doing it like TikTok.
One second, T.
Sure. And you guys, in the meantime, we're going to be talking about myomectomies today. So if there are any other questions that you might have about womb issues, healing your womb, you can put them in the comment section, and then we'll get to them at the end of the live. All right, when we get through all of what we want to discuss today, we'll get to your questions. So again, welcome, Makeda. So the topic today is myomectomy, and which is the medical treatment for fibroids. But there's still a lot of ignorance. So I'm sorry, there's a lawnmower in the background, and I apologize for that. So when Makeda is talking, I'll try to mute myself so it's not so loud. But so there's a lot of ignorance still surrounding fibroids. Many people still don't even know what a fibroid is, unfortunately. And many people who don't have the experience just have no clue about what it is and how so many women in our community are affected by it. So explain to us a little bit about what a fibroid is and how it develops.
Okay, well, fibroids are essentially, for the most part, they can be cancerous in very, very, very minute cases, but for the most part, they are non-cancerous tumor growth, and they form from the muscle inside of the uterine wall, and as well as fibrous tissue. So as something that is overgrowth of estrogen, because they mainly find it in women who are of childbearing age. Mm-hmm. And that women tend to get to menopause, the shrink, or don't present with much fibroids. So that's really what it is in and singular, can be multiple.
Oh, Makeda, 1 second. You seem to be breaking up on my end. I'm not sure. Can everybody tell me if you're hearing Makeda or if it's just me, so I can maybe see if it's my connection or if it's her connection. But we're getting some
properly.
Yeah, it's breaking. I've seen it breaking up for me as well. Yeah, somebody has confirmed that they're breaking up. It's breaking up for them.
Oh, but I checked everything that. So, are you hearing me now?
It sounds good. Go ahead and talk again. But
Oh, everyone says it's breaking up. They're not hearing me. Let me come closer. Are you hearing me now?
Yeah, it sounds good now.
Okay.
Before it was really choppy, so we're hardly hearing you.
Make sure everything is. All right, I think we're good to go now. I'm clear?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I was saying that a fibroid tumor or myoma is essentially the formation of hard muscle mass that is usually found in the uterine wall, and it's sometimes formed from fibrous tissue in the body, right? In the uterine. Now, a very small percentage of fibroids are cancerous, but for the most part, fibroids are non-cancerous growths. And in the medical fraternity, it is widely thought to be the source of estrogen dominance or the overgrowth of estrogen in the body. And they usually see it in women of childbearing age. So once you start to reach what they call menopause, or over 55, 60, they find that you see less incidence of fibroids in women of those age groups. So that's what it is, really. It's just distorted cells. It's rogue cells that have massed together in the form of fibrous tissues, in the form of muscle growth, and they take over the womb. They can be as small as fennel seeds, or they can be as large watermelons. I think the Guinness World Record holder of fibroids is a woman who had 236 fibroids removed from her womb. Yes, I believe it was in India. 236 fibroids. So they can be singular, they can be multiple, it can be tiny, whereas you can't see it, you can't feel it, and it can make your body look completely distorted.
Okay. So, I remember I had an experience a few years ago when I did when I had an ectopic pregnancy, so I had to do surgery, and I was at University Hospital, and I noticed that there were lots of young women there. At the time, I really didn't have any awareness of fibroids either, so I really was wondering what are so many? They're not pregnant, they're not having babies. Why are so many young women here? And I realized that it was fibroids. And so after that, I got more information about it and realized that it's a thing that's very common among Black women. So what do you know about the statistics for Black women with fibroids?
Most women with 80% of Black women have fibroids globally. 80%. Recently, there was an article in Trinidad that said women over 30, 80% of women over 30 struggled with fibroids. The country with the most fibroids in the world is Brazil. The country with the least fibroids in the world is Poland. So that just kind of gives you an idea that the people who struggle with the fibroids the most are melanated women, Black women. It's chronic in our community, serious, especially the Caribbean, African Americans, and South America. Chronic issue with fibroids. And just like what you said with your experience at the hospital, it's almost silenced. People are ashamed to talk about it. People, you know what I mean? So it's really a serious issue that we don't talk about enough.
What do you think is the reason, or give us some of the reasons why this is plaguing our community and our women?
A lot of reasons. You see, even though the accepted medical explanation is overgrowth of estrogen, one of the things that they know and that they don't talk about is that fibroids are linked to trauma. And we know as Black women, as African women, our history, generational trauma, we have experienced that the most out of any woman on this planet, and we continue to do so, right? Also, there is the issue of our natural cultural ways is far more alien to what is currently being practiced than any other group. What do I mean by that? So traditionally, African women, we don't wear high heels. We don't wear toxic makeup. We don't engage in a lot of these anti-feminine activities or anti-female activities from a cultural perspective. So women thrive in communities, we thrive in nature, we thrive with the support of families. That was our experience coming out of our ancient lands. So coming into the Western way of doing things, we are going to find that we are going to respond the most, our bodies are going to respond the most negatively because it's more alien to us. So a Caucasian woman is not going to experience the same negative reaction as we would when we are completely removed from nature, completely removed from community support, right? Stuck into this toxic prescription of the nuclear family. These things do not represent us. And so even just from a cultural cellular level, we are going to react negatively to it. The third thing is outside of food, which is kind of obvious, but I want to touch on the third thing that is very, very prevalent. A lot of the toxicity that tends to change the nature of our estrogen, change the nature of our hormonal balance is to be found in cosmetics, hair products, skin products. And unfortunately, Black women are some of the biggest consumers when it comes to cosmetic products, right? Because we have been sold repeatedly the idea that we are less attractive and we need more just to be on par with the most average white woman. Let's be real here. Just to be considered to be equally attractive with the most average, plain looking white woman, a Black woman is told that she has to alter herself. So you have to dye your hair blonde. You have to have hair extensions. Yes, you have to do all these things. You have to put on a red color on your cheeks. When Black women, we don't blush in red. We don't blush. We glow. We do not blush. You know what I mean? So just to be able to compete in a feminine space when it comes to looks, beauty, all of that, we have to alter our looks because that's what we're told. And when you find yourself in the demographic that is always parroting others, then it's easy to sell you things. It's easy to sell you toxic hair straighteners, toxic glues to go on your eyelash, toxic glue to go on your scalp. You're never enough. You're constantly chasing a concept, an image of beauty and femininity, which is diametrically opposed to your very humanity, right? So you come out of your mother's womb with coily, kinky, thick hair. That's who you represent on earth. That's your humanity. And you're told from day one, that's not enough. That's not enough. So from little girls, we are chasing this unattainable dream of beauty and femininity, just to be human, just to be accepted. And so the end result of that is that we consume a lot more toxins than other races of women. And you can look around you, do a social experiment, go into certain spaces and see which race of women wear the most wigs, because I know people are gonna say every race of woman wears the wigs, but hopefully Tifara, we can have some honest discussion today. But we are prepared for them. Who wears the most wigs? Who is always in glued on lashes, glued on nails, acrylic nails? Who is doing this? Recently, there was another story of a tragic BBL, mommy makeover nonsense. Now, why is it that if you are truly tapped into your feminine aura and your feminine purpose. That as a mother and a wife, you would want your breasts to be up in the air like this, your waist to be 18, 20 inches, and your bottom to be high in the sky. These are the things that we are chasing. We're literally chasing our shadow. That's how you know it's serious. Because whereas before you could say that we're trying to emulate Caucasian beauty in some sense, with the BBL crisis, we are literally chasing our own shadow. We're trying to be the white version of ourselves. It doesn't even make sense, you know. So that's really what it is, outside of the food.
That's so very well said. And I'd add to that, there's also the clothes, because now we live in Fashion Nova, we live in Shein, all these toxic brands of clothing that is just all synthetic fabrics. They're not making anything good. It's nothing worth paying for, nothing worth wearing. And so you're just covering yourself in plastic all day, every day. So there's also that. So,
so it's
black women
the background, it's the food, it's the history of abuse, and it is our consumerism trying to be what we're not and who we can never be.
Right. Absolutely. So, I realized that from women who have had fibroids, and I have quite a few friends who have had fibroids and have done surgeries. You are the only one I know who has healed her fibroid naturally. Everybody went to get cut up on the table, right? Because that seems to be the only treatment that the medical industry offers. That's the only thing they see as a solution to this problem. Mm-hmm. Explain to us, what exactly is this treatment called a myomectomy, and how effective is it, and what are the risks to a woman's emotional and physical wellness?
Well, let's start with the second question. Mm-hmm. How effective is it? Mm-hmm. I'm sure you know, and if it hasn't happened, you will have it, that those women, at least a third or a quarter of the women who get their fibroids surgically removed eventually have to go back, because the fibroids go back. So that should tell you about the effectiveness of a myomectomy.
Yes.
Either grow, and they have to do multiple myomectomies, which, by the way, that's the name of the fibroid surgery, or it gets so bad that they have to end up removing them through hysterectomy. So it's not effective. It can't be effective, because it's like if you're a gardener, anybody who you can only pull weeds temporarily. The only way for you to stop growing the weed from that part of the land is to kill the weed, is to kill the grow. Exactly. Right? And you have to get the gardener to come and weed up the yard every week or every weeks, because the weeds are going to continue to grow as long as the soil or the ingredients are there that promotes its growth. Yes, so that's the first issue. Now, your first question was why, or what is it? What it entails? Okay, so what it entails is basically, if you're doing an abdominal myomectomy, it's like major abdominal surgery. They go into the wall of the uterus and they cut around it. So they literally cut out the tumors out of your uterus, out of the uterine wall. There are procedures where you can have a laparoscopic approach, where they either go through the navel. It's less invasive. They can go through the navel, they can go through the vagina, and you may have much less scarring. The recovery time is quicker. Some women recover in a matter of days. When I say recover, they're back to their normal activities. Whereas with the abdominal surgery, where they cut your abdominal open, you can take up to 6 weeks to recover. There's also a third option, which a lot of people don't talk about for some reason, which is the UFE, uterine fibroid embolization, where it's very dangerous and it's not recommended if you want to have children. What they do, they insert little beads to block the blood supply to the uterus. And that causes the fibroid to die for lack of oxygen, lack of blood supply. And it shrinks, which is interesting because they said before that it couldn't shrink. They said it's impossible to shrink. But they have a medical procedure called uterine fibroid embolization, where they use plastics, small little plastics, to block the oxygen and blood supply to the fibroid, which causes it to shrink. This procedure is extremely painful and it causes damage to the womb, because unlike shrinking it naturally, which allows it to which allows the fibroid to be deprived of nutrients over time, the UFE is like a sudden shock to the system, because the fibroid is there getting your blood, getting your oxygen, and then you just cold turkey block it. It's extremely painful and it can damage your uterus permanently. You asked a third question. I don't know. I don't remember. Remind me.
Oh, I was asking about what are the risks to a woman's emotional and physical balance. But before you go there, I want to ask you another question on, following that answer that you gave about the surgeries.
Yeah.
A lot of women don't know also, or surprised after coming out of surgery and realizing that they did not only take the fibroids, they took the entire womb, right? So talk to us about that. And you were telling me about a case recently. Was it you were telling me about a case about some young woman that lost her womb and she wasn't aware of it? Right.
Yeah.
So these things happen quite often as well.
Quite often. Okay, so what people need to understand when you're going to do any surgery, right? You are usually required to sign some form of waiver. Mm-hmm. Yeah, believe it or not, even those people who do the BBLs, you have to sign that these horrible things could possibly happen to you, and the doctor or the hospital will not take blame for it. Yes. Mm-hmm. So with fibroid removal surgery, one, you have to sign a waiver, but secondly, when it comes to medical negligence, from a legal perspective, if you have any complications during your surgery, and all surgeries are risky, right? You could be allergic to the anesthesia, anything can happen, right? But if you have any complications, especially if you start to bleed profusely from the cuts that are being made in your uterine wall, they are going to remove your womb to save your life. Now, the standard of measurement to judge whether a doctor has been negligent under the law is whether he acted in such a way that was in line with any competent doctor. So if any competent doctor would have done what he did under those circumstances, he cannot be accused of being negligent. And the standard accepted medical response to excessive bleeding during a myomectomy is a hysterectomy. So that is why it's so common, because that is the go-to. That's literally the rule book. If they go in and you start to bleed profusely, they're going to remove your womb. And the explanation is that if they allow you to continue to bleed like that, then you might die. So it's like a procedure to save you. Now, you might say, well, they should be able to look at you prior to the surgery to make an assessment to see whether you're more likely to bleed than not. But it's medical science is not an exact science. Just like how you will have an ultrasound and they'll tell you you're having one fetus and you go in and you're having 2 or 3, right? So they may only see 3 fibroids on the ultrasound or whatever device they use. And when they actually cut you open, they might see multiple fibroids. And once they start the procedure, you might bleed excessively. So that's one of the reasons why it's risky. But the thing is, the reason why a lot of women are shocked is because it's like marketing and selling. If you're told that this thing, the balance of probabilities, this thing is so bad, if you have to get it removed, no. And they use their scare tactics and they say this block, that block, this is gonna happen to you, that is gonna happen to you. Then the women become on high alert and they feel like the most important thing that they have to do is to get the surgery. So they don't give enough thought to the fine print. They don't give enough thought to what is going to happen. Like people not connecting the dots. You're going under. You're going to be put unconscious and someone is going to stand over you with sharp tools and they're going to cut your insides. Anything can happen. And just like how you have job lot electrician, job lot plumber, you have not all doctors, not all surgeons are created equal. I don't know. For some reason, people can understand that you can have incompetent professionals in other areas. They will think that you can have an incompetent thieving lawyer, right? But when it comes to a surgeon, they automatically accept that he knows what he's doing, right? It's not everybody get A in the class. Some people got C. Some people barely pass. So you might think that because the person is wearing a white coat and a stethoscope around their neck, that they are God Almighty representative on earth. But they can make mistakes. The medical fraternity is not infallible. So you have to think carefully about the risks associated with major abdominal surgery.
Yep, what you said right there. A lot of them barely made it through medical school. Barely. They weren't all A students, trust.
Not just that, but in any field, just like, your field, Tifara, I know one of the things you have to do, you have to constantly keep yourself abreast of trends. Mm-hmm. You have to constantly read. You might have to experiments. You might say, all right, well, this formulation of the shampoo, not where I want it to be, so I'm going to change it this year. Not everyone is that meticulous about their craft, right? They're not staying up to date. And you know why too? Because they don't have to. The requirement for medical fraternity, especially in Jamaica, to be accountable is not that high.
Yeah.
There's not a medical board that is on their heels requiring to do certain things. So you have to bear that in mind when you're gonna make your decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think Jamaican people in general put doctors on a pedestal, so the doctor, everything the doctor says is what is right, and they don't question them at all. So not only is there no board that is governing them, the people themselves don't question them, so there's no accountability on their part, and even when they do things wrong also, it's not spoken of.
And it's hard to prove because, again, you're going to have to prove that no other doctor would do that. What he did was, or she did, was so way out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a group of doctors coming to their defense to say, yeah, man, this is acceptable medical evasive procedure.
All right, I don't want to get distracted by the comments, but we're going to get to them in the end. All right, so continue now and talking about the risk after doing the surgery. how are women affected? Their balance are affected emotionally and physically. How are they affected?
So the first thing, let us start by the superficial thing. The first thing is that you have an immediate scar. You have a scar, especially if you didn't do a laparoscopy. You have a scar in your tummy, and that can play upon a woman's mind, especially if she hasn't had children yet. Sometimes that can affect her self-esteem negatively. That's the first thing. The second thing is the time it will take for you to heal. Sometimes, depending on the type of surgery, it can go up to 6 weeks. It can affect your mood. You're gonna be on painkillers. They might give you medication to suppress the bleeding. In some cases, they give you medication to suppress your ovaries, which can have negative side effects on your hormones. Sometimes it can affect your ability to give birth naturally, because remember, it's like almost like a C-section, and depending on the skill of the surgeon and how the cut is made, it can affect your ability to have natural childbirth later on, and sometimes even a C-section later on in life, right? And sometimes because of all these, all right, look at it. Leading up to surgery, you have to get your body prepared for surgery. In my case, for example, I was extremely anemic. So one of the things they offered me was a chance to build up my hemoglobin by temporarily stopping my period. Yes? So that's, if you do that, that's going to mess up your hormones. That can cause depression. It can cause your bones to get brittle. There's an entire group on Facebook that where women are talking about the particular drugs that they give you in preparation of surgery, which stops your period. So if you start from even before surgery, when they start to pump your body with hormone altering drugs, it can, all of that is going to lead to mood changes. It's going to lead to depression, insomnia, pain, and all of these things. And then the most depressing thing about it, I believe, is that more and more often these things grow back because you have not dealt with the issue. You have not dealt with the problem. So your morale is depleted. You feel worthless. You feel like you want to give up because in 2 years of going through all of that, they return. Or you don't get an ease of this. The thing that it's supposed to treat is not eased. So women getting fibroid removal surgery because they have a big belly, and then the belly don't go away because you're on all this hormone medication that makes your belly big anyway. Or they go because they have excessive bleeding, heavy periods, and then they have the myomectomy, and their periods are still heavy because they have not addressed the issue, right? So it can be very frustrating. Initially, there might be jubilation and celebration because yes, you get these horrible, heavy things out of you. So I understand. So initially, there might be some feeling of joy, but over time, within a year or 2 years, most women regret it.
Yep, I agree with that. And I have one friend who did a fibroid surgery, and she, a few months after, she got pregnant, but the fibroid came back. Then she got pregnant, but boy, the baby put up a fight with the fibroids. But she made it through. She's a fighter. But yeah, so she still struggles with it. So there are lots of women do the surgery, and of course it comes back anyway. So that's one of the, to me, in my observation, one of the bigger issues with the surgery is that it reoccurs, these fibroids.
It's like any other treatment, you know. It's not a cure. It's just a band-aid. It's just a temporary thing. And why would you want to put your body through that? Why are we so against healing? Why we're constantly looking for shortcuts and for temporary fixes when we could just heal?
Exactly. So when it comes to womb health, though, a question comes up a lot about a woman's ability to have children or her desire to have children. You know, they love to say, oh, she don't want children anyway, so you know she can do whatever she wants because she don't want children, or she already have children, so she don't want no more anymore. As if your womb is useless after you've had children, or if you don't desire to have children, or if you can't have children, your womb is useless to you. Why does this conversation come up so much?
I'm going to offend people with my point, but that's life.
Yes, okay.
That line of argument is the heights of pygmyism. The heights of pygmyism, and women are not going to admit it. A lot of the times why women are in such a haste to, they have to shrink it. No, or else they're going to surgery. They don't want to allow their bodies to heal. They don't want to take the time to heal. It's because they're busy trying to please and impress a patriarchal society, an anti-women society, or men that hate them. They're competing with other men. In mother have two, so you want to have three. In wife have one, you want to have one too, right? You want to keep this man, have to get pregnant within X time, because this is the limitation you have put on yourself, that your value, your soul value, don't get me wrong, women's purpose is to procreate, but that's not our sole purpose. And if it comes to a choice between procreation or death, procreation or a lifetime of illness, and you're telling me that you would rather risk your life, then that shows you don't really understand the value, your value. And that is one of the main things doctors use to convince women to engage in activities or surgical procedures that are detrimental to their health. And that's one of the reasons why they convince them to get hysterectomy, because if you don't have children, then your womb is useless. Which what they're really saying is that if you don't have children or you can't, then you are useless. So it doesn't matter what suffering you're going to endure here on after. It doesn't matter what pain you're going to endure. It doesn't matter that you might die under anesthesia. The fact is, you don't need your womb, and so we can just do what we want with it.
Yeah.
Right? So the minute women out of that male-centeredness and step into their power, not only will they be able to heal themselves naturally, but they also understand that your value, your womb, is much more than a pleasure source, much more than a service to others. Your womb is first and foremost a service to yourself. That is the base from which we create the life that we desire. Before we create lives, we have to create the life we desire for ourselves, and we do that through the power of the womb.
Yeah. And I agree with you that, you know, they do use that women wanting to have children, you know, they frighten them into doing these surgeries because of that. You know, you want to have children, you have to do this, you know, because it's going to prevent you. And especially because most women who, as you said, who have fibroids over 30, you know, they're in that range where they feel like they have to hurry up, you know, and so they scare them into doing the surgery right now. It's detrimental, you have to do it now. And so that's why a lot of women do it, because they don't even think about, okay, healing sounds like such a long, tedious process. I can't be bothered with that. I'm going to have to eat what? I'm going to have to do what? I don't have any time for that, you know? So,
and also, we have accepted suffering as normal. So there are so many women who can't fathom that you can have a pain-free period, right? We think that as women, it's a given that you're supposed to suffer. You're supposed to be in pain. they're supposed to be unhappy. They can't fathom a life of joy and real luxury. You know what I mean? So they're happy to suffer in the name of this distorted image of womanhood.
Yeah. Okay. So finally, I want to ask you about, we know that many women are doing these surgeries and many more will do them, because the truth is that most of them won't up to, unfortunately. And we hope that they will change their minds and decide that healing is the option. You know, there is an option to heal myself of these fibroids. I can treat them naturally. But most of them won't. I know I've talked many women into trying to heal naturally, and then they decide to just go and do the surgery. But hold on. Before I go there, I missed something. I wanted to talk about these myomectomies and the cost.
Oh, yes.
Yes, because a lot of these doctors, it's a big business for them. Women's womb issues have become big businesses for them. They make a lot of money from these surgeries, right? And it don't matter if you have health insurance or you're paying cash. At the end of the day, even though you're not seeing it, all of that money is going into the doctor's pocket, right? So they have motivation behind encouraging you to do these surgeries, right? What is the cost of a myomectomy procedure and others similar to it?
All right, so you're gonna spend at least $150,000 just for the hospital. And if you want the luxury of having private medical care, want a private hospital, then you will have to pay more. And then you're gonna have to pay the doctor fee cells starting at about 300,000. And in some cases, you have to pay the anesthetist separately, which is another 150 thereabouts. So you're looking at $500,000 in Jamaica. In the US, you can pay anywhere up to like $7,000 for. So it's big business and it's costly, very costly.
Yeah.
But I want to address that issue about the willingness or unwillingness of women to try natural healing, because it would be remiss of us not to address the fact that for a lot of women, they just don't have the resources, they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the support. We're talking about women who are in sometimes abusive relationships, where the money, they don't have access to their own money. Just a lot of toxicity. Sometimes it's even in the reverse, where these women being breadwinners of their family, they have a man that's not contributing financially. And so it's the idea is just go get surgery, go get it over with so you can get back on the work treadmill. A lot of women are living like that, you know. A lot of women, they just have to continue working. They don't have the time or the luxury to healing space for themselves, because they have to be minding some big tough Batman, you know. So they don't have the space where they're telling them, oh, you know, take a day and do some sea salt soak and soak your feet and you know, do exfoliate. They don't have time for that, because
they don't have time for simple self-care.
Have to come home, look after the children, look after the house, pay the bills. You know, a lot of, and it's not that they wouldn't want to, but they just don't have the support. They don't have the support. So that's part of the work that we do, is giving women these spaces and these resources to know that they can help themselves to heal. That's the prerogative of the female, healing herself.
Right. She's
And
the
healing
healer
others.
of the community. She heals
Yeah,
herself and heals others.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't know that, and it's so ironic. We're going to these men or these systems created by men in white coats to heal ourselves when that is our job. That's our job. No one can heal you better than yourself. No one knows your body more than you. Your body communicates with you more than it would a healer.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So I understand and I empathize, but we have to start with small steps, and we have to start by accepting that it's possible. Because that's one of the ways too that, you know, the medical fraternity dominates the narrative by saying, oh, we just don't know what causes it. Oh, it's just this random thing that's just taking over women's body.
Mm-hmm.
Once you accept that, it's like accepting defeat. Because if something is just happening to you out of your control, you can't fix it. So we have to reject that narrative altogether.
But that makes me ask the question also, how many women can really afford these procedures? You know, because let's face it, you know, if you're not in a job in a corporate company, you may not have health insurance. You know, a lot of women then cannot afford these. If they can't afford some natural food, a natural lifestyle, how do they afford? Even though
You
Black
know,
women are resourceful, you know. But
good, really, really good point, because one thing, Jamaican people, them find money for prescription, doctor, and funeral.
not true.
And find it, them going to find it. If them going to beg everywhere in a New York, they're going to find it. That same person is not going to get remedies. So you're absolutely right. And just what you said earlier, because everything the doctor had and everything he said is golden, they're gonna go way above and beyond to find that myomectomy.
Mm-hmm.
But tell them to invest in 3 months of juicing or cleansing or not food, and they're going to tell you say too expensive.
Yeah, that is the truth about it.
And two is the attitude of one and done. You just want one and done. You don't want to really change, because healing is not chicken and burger taste nice. You know? Healing is hard because it requires you to become someone else. It requires you to face your demons. It
Mm-hmm.
requires you to take responsibility and accountability. The minute you accept that I am the cause of something, by doing something else, I will achieve a different result, then you have to accept your role in your pain.
Absolutely.
Most of us are not prepared to do that.
No.
So it's easier to just go to the doctor and say, just cut this out, man, and then I can go back to being who I like.
Where I was before the surgery, and continue on the same path, because a demon did this to
Exactly.
me, or it wasn't me.
I
I'm
did
saying
hear.
that I continue because a demon attacked them. It wasn't them.
Then look at that too. Look at the programming from even Christianity. Remember, you know, it's not you do it, it's the devil do it. So even that approach to life in our psyche, where we don't take responsibility, is so people we are is bad luck,
Mm-hmm.
is crosses, everything except a true man on money and a true man on money. If we didn't have money like Tifara, a true Tifara have money. If we didn't have money like Tifara, everything except you, you know. So will complain and say, this, that, and the other is expensive. But you can get a bungalow callaloo for less than $100. Pumpkin is cheap, green banana cheap. You know, there's so many things.
Options in our market to be talking about.
Mango season, people still buy and pick the chicks. What could be more accessible than mangoes in Jamaica? You see? Yeah. Callaloo grows wild in Brooklyn on the streets. But people, when it's all your mind, oh, do you want to become someone else? Most of us don't.
But we've been tricked into thinking that food is in the supermarkets. That's the problem. Yeah. Food is in the supermarkets and KFC. As you spoke about recently, that Jamaica has 39 KFC stores island-wide. Not a small place.
Yeah.
39 KFC.
And
I mean, it's shameful.
But isn't today the launch of Krispy Kreme? And this is where, this is where we have to take corporate Jamaica to task, because there's this elaborate launch of Krispy Kremes. They're gonna have a violinist. They're gonna have a red carpet. All this nonsense for fried garbage. And that's what happens in Jamaica when you travel. People don't view these fast food restaurants the same as Jamaicans. Jamaicans act like they would get dressed up to go eat fast food. It's like they don't understand that they're eating garbage. As long as it comes from foreign and you get a cute bag with a cute logo on it, they think it's food, right? There's so many problematic ingredients with what the FDA allows to go into food. Just red dye number 4.
Cosmetics too.
Yes.
The FDA allows a lot of things in cosmetics as well.
Yes.
There's a lot of tricks in the beauty industry.
Yeah. So like if you look at something as simple as Skittles, in the UK, for example, the red color is either beetroot or annatto. US Skittles is red dye number 40, yellow number 40, which cause fibroids, cause cancer, cause autism, cause brain damage. You understand? And we don't reach what's coming from China yet. Yeah. We don't reach what's coming from China yet, you know. So it's not a if nor maybe that there's going to have to be a change, because there are women in my inbox who are telling me that their 8-year-old daughter just got diagnosed with fibroids. When I was a child, the people who got hysterectomies were in their 50s and 60s.
Right.
Women in their 30s are having hysterectomies. So you don't understand that it's a crisis yet. If we're going to wait till we have teenage girls walking around with their wombs removed.
No, we'll notice when our numbers start dwindling, and we realize that there's nobody around. People will have children, have sons, and then there's no daughters for them to mate with, to marry. There are no family. Well, there are already no families, even though there is enough man and woman. We don't have families in our communities anymore. But it's going to get worse.
Agenda, you know, in the era of gender neutrality, people are not going to see the value of having a womb, because people are calling humans who don't have wombs are calling themselves women. So you know, if we don't see clearly that it's bigger than whether you like callaloo or not, and whether you like you know, your quality take.
That's a good point there again, because that to me is another issue with women, is that we have really supported this community that claims to be a woman as well. Don't want to go too much into it, because you know how these platforms are when you talk about these things. But
Yeah.
the truth is that we've supported them erasing us, right? And to the point now where there's confusion about what a woman is. So if there's confusion even for us about what a woman is, we don't know the purpose of anything that makes us women. We don't know anything about ourselves. We don't know the value of a woman, because if a man can come and tell us that he's a woman and he's equal to us, then of course we're gonna be confused, and then of course sickness is gonna come from our confusion. We don't value our wombs.
Women are the pick-me's, the same pick-me's that they hate, because they'll talk all this talk about how they're feminists, about how they're lesbians, about how they're mistresses, but they will reject the natural power of femininity and go to a man in a white coat. That's who they're taking their advice from. Men, these same women who claim to be feminists, they are the ones lining up at the gynecologist door. They're the first ones there. So it's all fake. They claim they don't like men and they're anti-men.